Remember the 2018-19 Sacramento Kings? They finished the season with a 39-43 record, and heading into the All-Star break that season, they were 30-27, and 2 games in back of the Clippers in the win column for the 8th seed in the Western Conference. The Kings would finish 9th and miss the playoffs as a part of their still ongoing playoff drought, but that team was fun, fast, and built around then second-year player De'Aaron Fox, who at the time took a leap as a scorer and a playmaker. The 39 wins that season are still the highest amount of wins in a season for the Kings during this ongoing playoff drought, which is now 16 seasons. Instead of building off of that, then Kings GM Vlade Divac fired then head coach Dave Joerger and hired the guy Divac had wanted all along, Luke Walton. And Kings fans don't need me to explain why the subsequent 2 seasons and some change with Walton were a disaster. Enter current GM Monte McNair, who is entering his 3rd season at the helm for the Kings organization. After firing Walton after 17 games into last season, McNair enters this season with new head coach Mike Brown and a revamped roster with one goal in mind: breaking the 16-year playoff drought. McNair has made a bunch of solid to good decisions in his time as GM, from the draft to trades, and all under the microscope of an ownership group that has put a reported, maybe, sort of, not really, but let's be real, it really is, playoff mandate. McNair clearly had a plan this summer building around not only De'Aaron Fox, but Domantas Sabonis, who they traded for just before the trade deadline. For the most part, I've liked what the Kings have done this offseason. While I think the Kings have long put off doing an actual careful rebuild, I think for the goals of a GM who did not get extended and is entering the final year of his contract, remember people, there's no playoff mandate apparently, McNair executed his plan perfectly. The question now becomes, can they achieve their goal? Can they make the play-in in a Western Conference that's going to be stacked? Let's come to an answer by reviewing the Kings offseason. There are some reasons why I brought up the 2018-19 Kings team, one of which, the team had an identity, which I think is important when you're trying to turn a franchise around. The team played fast and made their bones in transition and being accurate from 3. All of those were crucial to building around the speed of De'Aaron Fox. That team had shooters in Nemanja Bjelica, Buddy Hield, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Harrison Barnes, who they traded for later on that season. Bjelica and Bogey could help out with the playmaking. Barnes and Bjelica locked some lineup combos. There was some athleticism with Willie Cauley-Stein despite his limitations, Marvin Bagley as a rookie, all built to maximize the sheer speed of Fox. Unfortunately, like on many occasions, the decision-making of Divac during his time as GM got in the organization's way. After firing Dave Joerger and bringing in Luke Walton, the Kings struggled to recapture that identity that bred the team's most successful season in this playoff drought. Not only did the Kings fail to land in the top 3 in pace again under Walton, they were worse in every stat related to transition basketball, the offense as a whole, and yes, they were even worse defensively on historic levels, even though Walton was brought in to bring in a defensive culture. Fast forward all the way to this offseason, Monte McNair clearly entered this summer with a to-do list. And from my view, it looks like he accomplished a lot of it by trying to capture some of those 2018-19 qualities. The players McNair brought in this offseason through free agency, trades, and the draft have the skill set to play on a fast team. Shooters, athleticism, and positional versatility that will at least give the Kings a chance to be off to the races in the open court. Trading for Kevin Huerter was a great move for Sacramento, especially for the price they got him for. He's 23, can shoot, play make a little bit, and he's a gamer. Just watch his Game 7 in the 2021 playoffs against the Sixers. I'm gonna go cry now. Signing Malik Monk added more shooting and athleticism and someone who is familiar playing with De'Aaron Fox, and of course, we can't forget Keegan Murray, the 4th overall pick in this past draft, and the Summer League MVP. Murray showed more in Summer League than I think even the biggest Murray fan or draft nerd anticipated. A shooter who is big and has legitimate size to get his shot off anytime he wants, and he displayed that he could shoot the 3 ball at a high level in a variety of ways. Catch and shoot, off screens, he even showcased a step back 3 a few times. And that's all on top of the positional and defensive versatility Murray was already projected to provide coming out of the draft. There are also current Kings on the roster that I think will have a bounce back shooting the ball, like Terrence Davis, Davion Mitchell, who will now be entering his second year, and you gotta hope that De'Aaron Fox will at least scratch the mid-30s as a three-point shooter. Mix in Harrison Barnes, who has been steady from deep during his time in Sacramento. The Kings as a whole should see significant improvement with their shooting. With these offseason additions, I think the Kings will not only be equipped to return to the fast-paced style of ball that was so fruitful in 2018-19, but they will have more options to diversify their attack in the half court, thanks to the fitting pieces around the offensive potential of the Fox-Sabonis duo. The traits of every player I mentioned also fit well with a center who can be an offensive hub with his passing and interior scoring, like Domantas Sabonis, someone who can hit cutters and shooters out of the post as a short roller, in the high post, off of dribble handoffs. Oh, and he can also take the ball off the glass and do a little coast-to-coast action, making decisions for himself from time to time. The 1-2 combination of De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis is a solid start if you want to start constructing an offense. The Kings signaled that they wanted to fast-track going to the playoffs after trading for Sabonis for beloved second-year guard Tyrese Halliburton. And while I made a video at the time disagreeing with the trade, and I still do to be honest, only from the perspective that I think ownership should have just embraced growing a team through the draft properly, having a 26-year-old all-star center who is really good offensively to pair with Fox is nothing to scoff at. They only played 13 games together out of Sabonis' 15 games with the Kings last season, but in that small sample, that duo produced some great numbers. On the offensive end, any lineup with those two on the court produced a 116 offensive rating. And you could tell in the first game against the Timberwolves, where Sabonis made his debut, that he unlocked a few things the Kings have just never had at their disposal. The passing, the low post scoring by bruising bigs and mismatches, the suction cup hands catching the ball while rolling toward the basket. Fox was already the beneficiary of a few plays being involved in multiple actions with Sabonis getting to the basket. Fox also finally acquired a target to pass to in the pick and roll dance. These were the Kings' three most used lineups with the Fox-Sabonis combo. Mo Harkless was really the starting power forward in name and not in playing time, and they eventually transitioned to Trey Lyles in that starting spot. And that move at the very least nudged the Kings towards better results, but think of the lineups and numbers you see on this screen. Now that the Kings have upgraded the Justin Holiday shooting guard spot with Huerter, and with Keegan Murray projected to take the Mo Harkless turned Trey Lyles starting spot at power forward, the offense should see another gear, and hopefully, the defense will at least become passable. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it, the Kings defense under Luke Walton was fucking terrible, and it did not get better after he was fired 17 games into last season. Yes, the 2018-19 season under Dave Yeager wasn't exactly top-flight defense either, but at the very least they were closer to the middle of the pack, and they forced a lot of turnovers to fuel the aforementioned transition attack. In Walton's first season with the Kings, they dropped to 20th in defensive rating per cleaning the glass, and then in the 2020-21 season, the Kings posted a 117.6 defensive rating, which is the second worst defensive rating in NBA history. Just barely falling short of the 2018-19 Cavaliers. A lot of that was on Walton, and some was personnel and individual effort from different players. Now that Mike Brown is the head coach, he will have his work cut out for him, but he is a true defensive mind. With better personnel, not only that, personnel that will allow Mike Brown to field multiple defenders in different lineup combinations, the Kings should see an improvement. No, I mean like they literally can't be any worse than historically bad. There will also need to be buy-in from De'Aaron Fox. Coming out of Kentucky, I loved Fox and his potential defensively, and as a left-handed quick guard who can attack the paint and in transition. The defense hasn't translated to be kind, but he has all the physical tools to at the very least be an average defender and a good one on some nights. Sabonis can be solid positionally, and you could probably scheme around his limitations by playing drop coverage primarily and mixing in drop coverages where he is playing to different levels, but the rim protection has been an issue in the past. This is where the Keegan Murray pick comes in. If he can make an impact defensively at the 4 by simply being better than Mo Harkless and providing more stuff than Trey Lyles, his defensive versatility and instincts he showed at Iowa should be able to cover some of Sabonis' weaknesses. If Harrison Barnes remains solid and Davion Mitchell continues to hound people, you can make the case that the Kings could find themselves improving by ranking somewhere between the 16 to 22 range in terms of defensive rating. If that's the case, that's all they need, because I really do think their offense has a chance to be potent. But even if all these factors broke right for the Kings, would it be enough to make the play-in? I want to be cautious, because I did talk myself into a Kings play-in spot last offseason. But as you could tell, I love the Kings offseason moves. I think Monte McNair had clear goals in mind, and set out to accomplish them. I also think the moves will not only help bring out more potency offensively around Fox and Sabonis, I also think the moves give the Kings a chance to at least improve from literally among the worst defenses to they're below average and some nights bad. I also think there is some untapped upside because of the age of their new additions, but never mind the playoffs. Will that be enough to make the play-in? And that's the real question. And it's magnified because, as mentioned, McNair did not get a contract extension, even though I think in 3 off-seasons, he has done the best job out of the other GMs employed during Vivek Ranadive's ownership. And if you need to borrow my detective hat to read tea leaves, Vivek's daughter was hired toward the end of last season to be the assistant general manager of the Stockton Kings in the G League, and it will be her first foray into the basketball front office world. Make of that what you will. Remember, there isn't a playoff mandate apparently. But let's look at the West, because it will be loaded with some contenders coming back to full strength, and some teams like the Jazz and the Spurs will probably drop out. This could change as the season comes closer, but as of now, I'd pencil in the Warriors, Grizzlies, Suns, Mavericks, Nuggets, and Clippers as the top 6 in the West. Then you look at the Timberwolves, who I think will win a lot of regular season games this year. And then the Pelicans, now that they have Zion back, are coming off of a playoff series where they played the Suns tough and continue to add to their depth of wings. That's 8 spots locked up already. So that just leaves the 9th and the 10th spots open. And the Kings will be jockeying with the Lakers, who have 2 great players, but as it stands, as long as Russell Westbrook is on the team, they're going to be a play-in contender. And the Blazers, who I thought pivoted well retooling around Dame. And who knows, maybe there will be an unexpected play-in push from one of either the Thunder or the Rockets. The Kings can definitely play their way into a 9th or 10th seed. And at that point, you just need to win 2 games in a row to get into the playoffs and end the longest playoff drought in NBA history. Last year, I thought it was doable, but now some teams are coming back healthy, and the West is deeper. This upcoming season, Sacramento and McNair definitely have their work cut out for them.